As you might expect, this documentary features alleged images of dead bodies. Some of those bodies are those of children. This might upset you if you came to a video of post-mortem photography without expecting it to include post-mortem photography. It also includes images that may or may not be authentic examples of Victorian post-mortem photography, and this is pointed out. So no need to tell me that some of these are fake. We live in the age of the self-image. Phone cameras mean that more or less everyone has the means of taking photographs at any time, anywhere. The rise of the selfie and social media has allowed people in love with themselves to ensure that hundreds, if not thousands, of images now exist of some people, and even the less egocentric will probably have had their lives chronicled from birth by the camera. Back in the late 19th century, things were rather different. Photography was expensive, time-consuming, and involved bulky equipment. Many people would never be photographed at all, and if they were, it might only be once. And that one time might be after you've died. This is the Overlooked Hotel, and this is the bizarre story of post-mortem family portraits. When a loved one dies, it seems natural that the remaining family might want to look back on photographs of that person as a reminder and a keepsake of their life. And if they've never been photographed while alive, why let that get in the way? As odd as it seems now, it was not especially unusual for family members to pose alongside the recently deceased for what would be now seen as a ghoulish snapshot, and possibly involve an investigation by the authorities, although the practice still exists to a degree, with mothers posing for photographs with stillborn babies. Naturally, these portraits only worked if the dead family member was relatively well preserved and undamaged. The corpse would usually be posed in a natural manner. While some post-mortem photographs include the coffin and others do little to disguise the fact that the subject is dead, most aim to create the illusion that the deceased is still alive. After all, these images were supposed to be a lasting memory of the living person, not a reminder of their death. And that death might often have been what we call untimely. What's perhaps most disturbing about these images when seen now is just how many feature children. It's a sobering reminder that we're not all that far away from a time when infant mortality rates were alarmingly high and not seen as especially unusual. Even now, it's highly likely that you'll have elderly family members who had a brother or sister who died in childhood. These images are sober and serious. There's no sense of disrespect or exploitation in them. They seem creepy because it's hard to see how you can ever divest them from reality. There must have been a constant awareness amongst people that the photograph showed a deceased loved one, no matter how lifelike they may have seemed. I don't know how anyone could avoid that reality from marring their appreciation for these final images. But perhaps it's no different from looking at any image of a loved one who's died. No matter how vibrant they might be in the photo or video, your pleasure will always be tempered by the fact that they're no longer with you. For modern viewers, these images of death masquerading as life seem especially ghoulish and macabre. Death has become increasingly taboo as the decades have gone by, with the idea that it should be something private and hidden. Photographs of dead bodies are frowned upon and only shown when there is justifiable reason, and documentaries that have either featured the moment of death or the aftermath, no matter how well-intentioned and serious, are always subject to media outrage. We are perhaps a touch hypocritical about it. The truth about death makes us very uncomfortable, and so we like to pretend that it doesn't happen. Yet these photographs are surely no more morbid than open casket funerals where artificially made-up bodies lie on display for family members to pay their last respects. People will kiss corpses goodbye, and that is surely stranger than posing for them with a photograph. To complicate things for the connoisseur of the macabre, the long exposure times in Victorian photography meant that many of the subjects look unnaturally stiff at the best of times, and so it becomes hard to differentiate between a corpse and somebody who has simply been staying very still for a long time. I should also note that there are claims that any photograph showing standing figures will only feature living people, as it would be impossible to pose a corpse to stand convincingly, and that the posing stands that we see in many images were used to keep living people still during the lengthy time that it took to take a photograph, which is true. However, one argument for this theory is that rigor mortis would prevent the posing of a body. But rigor mortis only lasts a day or two, and it's entirely likely that most of these photographs were not taken on the same day that somebody passed away. So who knows? Look at them as examples of how these images could be so lifelike, and how generally stiff Victorian society was, that even now we can never quite be sure who is alive and who isn't in them. One thing is certain: the eagerness to debunk is often as dubious as the eagerness to believe, and claims either way seem to be effectively opinion-based rather than offering hard facts to support the claims. In truth, the art of post-mortem photography was not one that was well chronicled at the time it was taking place, and so we don't know exactly what methods were used by photographers. The popularity of these photographs declined as cameras became smaller, cheaper, and easier to use, allowing people to take their own countless photographs of living loved ones. Cultural attitudes also changed, and the idea of photographing the dead for public display became increasingly unacceptable. But let's not write the concept off completely. We live in the age of the selfie and attention-hungry social media types who are chronicling every aspect of their lives. We might reasonably ask why their deaths wouldn't be a part of that. Surely nothing is more appropriate than for an Instagram feed to end with the final photo, a last statement from beyond the grave. Don't laugh. Stranger things have happened. If you enjoy these journeys into the weird side of our forgotten past, then I'd appreciate a like, a share, and if you haven't yet done so, a subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you think of this sort of photograph. Would you pose for a picture like this with a dead loved one? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.